Hi, today I'm going to show you how you can break down video reference for animation. Hi, my name is Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 25 years now, and I'm here to empower you. So one of my patrons asked me this question. I want to make animations, but I'm curious if you have experience in or could educate us on how to break down an existing video and how to identify the keyframes that you might want to copy or reference. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be breaking down. I'm going to break down a simple action based off of a video, and then I'm going to show you what to look for and so that you can translate that into actual animation. Before I begin, though, just a quick pet peeve thing. It's a pop culture thing that kind of bothers me. It's not a big deal, but I just wanted to rant a little bit. So give me a second. And it has to do with this very first part of the sentence. I want to make animations. I understand now that the vernacular when it comes to animation is to call everything that is animated animations. And this comes from the video game industry. But in the animation industry, we never use the term animations for anything. We would say, instead of saying I want to make animations, we would say I would like to animate. And when we had little loops or cycles or basic motions, we would say this is an animation cycle. This is an animation loop. This is an animation scene. We wouldn't say this is animations. We wouldn't say this is Japanese animations. We would say this is an animated cartoon. We would say, so I don't, it bothers me so much when people use the word animations as a noun or a verb. I don't know. I don't even know. It bothers me because that's not, why don't you just say it's an animated blank, it's an animated scene, it's an animated loop, it's an animated cycle, I want to learn how to animate, I want to be an animator, I don't know, it bugs me. It bugs me to no end every single time. And it's all because the animation industry uses that, this is the animations for this character. And then what they're talking about is a file that has a group of motions, animated motions, that go to that character or that group of cycles or animated routines for a character. And they just abbreviate it by just saying animations because it's easier and quick to say. But in general, in the animation industry, we never use that term. All right. So I should say terminology. So let's begin. I'm going to do something very simple. And this is what I found this on YouTube. So the very first thing you got to do is something that's very clear. So you either record yourself doing the action, which is the way that it's most of the time the way it's done. It used to be that you would hire an actor and to do the the action that you wanted to reference, or you would have a mirror in the room. This is before we had camera phones and stuff like that. We would have a mirror in the room, and we would just go through the motions, and then we'd just sketch it, and then we'd go through the motions and then sketch what we saw. That's the way it was before. Now you could actually record yourself and very quickly see have some reference. So reference is extremely important. So first of all, the clearest reference possible is ideal. If you need more than one pass at the action, do multiple takes of you doing the action. If that's what you're going to do, if you're going to use reference, video reference for animation. All right. So this is going to be my video reference. It's a person who is in slow motion hitting a ball with a bat. And the reason I chose this is because it's a very simple, obvious, straightforward, beginning, middle, and end action. And because it's already slowed down in slow motion for me, which is great because you kind of want to see this stuff in slow motion. especially if it's a fast action. You also want to see it in its full speed because you want to get the timing right. But right now what we're going to be talking about is specifically breaking down a motion to its most basic so that you can break it down and understand it. Okay, so so we begin with we review the action over and over. We take a look at what we want. And so we kind of begin with the most basic stance that this person has, right? Which is this. So we open our animation program, and I'm going to move this over out of the way. And I'm going to keep bringing it back down so I could do the comparison. But for now, what I'm going to do, right now I'm using OpenToons. OpenToons is a free animation program that is very high level professional quality animation program. I'm going to use a very simple character that I come up with so that I can do this in the simplest way possible, so that I can it's not a very complicated character. So obviously the very first thing we want to do is get the first pose. This will be my first pose, and so what I'm looking for is gesture. That is the most important part. I am not looking for I'm not looking to do a finished clean drawing. What I'm looking for is a clear gesture of a pose. So I'm going to make a gesture drawing of this pose. So using my character design, here's my exposure sheet over here on the side. So this guy's very simple. The hard part will be getting this gesture down. You know that this character, let me move him down. It is the trickiest part, is getting these poses to be clear. Okay. And it does take time to get this right. So this is happening. Maybe I want it to be over here instead. I'm getting a lot of lag. I'm an extremely messy gesture drawing. So I decided that because of my character design, this character body parts would probably be in a different place than they would had they been more realistic. Like I said, getting the gesture right is key. Perhaps something like that. So let me show you what I drew and what he looks like here. So as you can see, he's much more straight up and kind of turned. But what I did was I kind of felt like he was getting revving up to go. So I exaggerated that. And this was what was throwing me off, was because there's all this space in between. But this guy's got such a huge head that it needed to be up higher. And then this needs to, I still think that this could be up higher. So what you're doing when you're looking at the references, you're kind of feeling it out, especially if you're doing something that isn't accurate or proportional to what you are, to your reference. You got to deal with the model that you've got. So I want his shoulders to come up more. Because he's really ready to hit that ball. Okay, so the next part is to look through the motion and see where we are probably heading. So this is, let me go back to what we had originally here. Boom. So we're probably looking for here, maybe, or here. So perhaps here. Perhaps that's what we want. Let's try it out. There is no hard and fast rule, but what we need is some direction of where we're headed, and then we can make adjustments. So I'm going to skip ahead to about 10, and I'm going to give myself the onion skin over here. So this is frame 10. So there's a big gap where we could add more motion in between if we want. So the next thing we got to do is do a gesture of that pose that we chose. And again, it has to do with our character design and seeing and pushing what we see. And then maybe make it straight, like boom, instead of what is actually, we want to exaggerate what we're seeing. There. Not sure why it's so laggy. Boom. 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 So we got that going on. And what we may do is we want to maybe block in the arc of that bat. I don't think that's the arc. I think that's probably it. Okay, and then we got to go, and so this is what I saw, and this is what I drew, and I was really pushing this arc, like really, and you know, just giving it that, and see how his arms are a little bit bent. Well, I really, in order to really push that power, I stretched it out, right? Because this is where it's like, boom, the most stretched out before it goes into that. So, I got a little bit of a hiccup there. Boom. And then this is kind of the final, maybe? Let's see. I like that. And then that. So it's like two poses. Boom, the contact. Then this height right there. So I'm looking for like the storytelling poses and the act in the physics telling poses. So this is still where it's going through, and then the last one would be him relaxing, because that's the last pose. We ease into that one, but this is like the boom, and then so we're looking for what are the least amount of poses that I could do that will tell the story, is really what we're looking for. And I will skip again all the way down to the bottom here, and I'm going to look at my reference, and I'm going to see if I can't replicate what I see with my character. And the legs are still generally the same place. Everything seems to be about in the same place. That there's definitely a relaxing of that foot. And then finally that last pose of him being relaxed. So I did the, let me show you my version and the and this video version. So I've got this video version of that, and then my version of it. So you could see that I really pushed this more than this is, because we're talking animation. The last thing you want to do when you're animating something out of reference is to copy it verbatim, the pose almost exactly. What happens is that you get that uncanny valley feel to it, that there's something off. That it's almost there but not quite. What you want to do is push it a little bit beyond reality. And when you push it beyond reality, it looks right. But when you do exactly what is... when you do like a motion capture type or a rotoscope type reference, it looks wrong. It looks weird. There's something weird about it. But when you go a little bit beyond, it looks more natural. We don't know why, but this is something that was discovered by the 9 old men at Disney when they were doing things that were kind of rotoscopy at first, like Snow White and stuff like that. Little by little, they started realizing that when you look at reference, it's better to push it beyond the reality than to copy it verbatim, because once you copy it verbatim, it starts looking kind of odd. So let me finish with that final relaxed pose. So that will be the reference for the last pose. And that probably settles about there. Let me give myself the onion skin so I know where I'm going. So here's the foot. Maybe my little triangle body is getting in the way now. It doesn't have to be verbatim the pose. It just has to be inspired by, referenced by, close enough to what the reference was. Okay. Maybe I even though that the reference has hands very high up like that, maybe it just feels better to lower him just a little bit. But you won't know until you try. Okay. Okay. And those are my keyframes. So what I would do now is I would go back to the reference and I would do the breakdowns. So these are my keyframes. A, B, C, and D are my keyframes. And now I'm going to do the breakdown frames. Now a breakdown is an explanation of the motion. So the keyframes are the main roadmap drawings that define the action. The breakdown drawings are the main drawings that define the motion. So one defines the action, the other refines the motion. So it's the subtle parts of the motion, the explanation of some of the physics. That's what the breakdowns are. So let's see. Now we got to go back and start with that. So we have to do this bit. So that is like the anticipation. He goes up and lifts up his foot. That's something that we have to refine in the breakdowns. This could be a secondary key as well. So I know that he goes back like an antic. And antic is being is short for anticipation. This goes up. This goes down as his shoulders come up. His leg comes up, and I'm doing a super exaggerated version of it. His legs come down. His shoulders come up higher. So, he goes up a little bit. And I think that's not enough. I think he really ought to go back even more. Now, if this was paper, I would have had to repeg it and or cut out this chunk of paper and reposition it. But there's no reason to be even talking about paper anymore when it comes to hand-drawn animation. So maybe I should just drag this down so that see that better. And then we're going to break down this motion here and here. We'll do it around here. And that would be, coming back to the reference, what happens after he lifts up his foot? He puts it down and then swings. Let's look at that again. He lifts up his foot, sets it down, so his foot hits the ground first, boom, and then he begins to swing. So that's really important. He goes up, down, and then swings. It's not one action. The arm stays up, he plants his foot, and then he swings. So you really have to be paying attention to the order of things. So the next thing we got to do, we have to break that down into two parts. The foot setting down and then the beginning of the swing. That means that we got to go here and here. So first, his foot needs to come down. And that means his body is really coming this way. Like it's really swinging over here. And I'm looking at the pose. In the reference. And notice again, none of this is clean. The worst thing you could do is try to draw perfect clean drawings right now. That's at the very, very, very end. So all of this stays about here. Maybe this moves up. Or maybe it should move down before it comes up. So it goes down even more. Gotta wait for this lag to end here. Okay, so I will raise this up. And then the swing, the body moves forward. It's all happening at the hips. All of it is happening at the hips. The head is being pulled by the hips And now the swing of the bat. So let's take a look. Oops. Gah, wrong button. Boom. Okay. Let's look at that again. Plants swing. So that, about that is what we want, is that kind of a pose. So we want that, remember the bat isn't in charge, the arms and the hips are in charge. The bat is being dragged. In fact, you could even have the bat bend impossibly to really make it feel like it's moving fast. So there's a stretch there. What are those basic animation things? Squash and stretch? Well, here's the stretch part. Let's check it out. And it's not quite there. Between these two drawings, there needs to be much more of a push there. I keep forgetting that the eraser tool here on this program is pretty awful. So I'll just select and delete the lines I want instead of using the eraser tool. Got the foot. And I forgot that I should yeah, I am following my arc. Okay. Okay, and then what happens here? We have the ball. We don't have to worry about the ball at the moment. Boom. It's just a swing. About right there. Let's take a look at it. We want that. And the tricky part here is that you don't actually want to draw the contact when it comes to something like this. You want to pretend there was a contact, but you don't actually want to draw the contact. It actually, if you draw the contact, it slows down the motion. Boom. Let me turn off the so it's all in scribbles, but you get the motion and then it comes. So let me move this over here. Let me move this over here. Then the rest is pretty simple. I don't even think I need the reference for the rest, except for to use as timing. So really quick, as the body settles, well, maybe I do need it. Let me see what happens in the body. Just swings to its spot. The bat at that point just kind of relaxes. Probably need a drawing right in between here. Just to slow down this action. Okay, so the breakdown, what you want to do is so that everything doesn't all stop at the same time or doesn't move at the same time. Maybe what you want to do is you want to keep some body parts more delayed than others, so you don't want to have a direct in between. And that was what I was accidentally doing here. So what I want to do is I want to keep the head still back while this is the thing that's moving, and then the arms maybe stay up higher for a lot longer. And then these arms reach this point sooner. This arm starts to move while the head is still generally in the same area. And then the arm, so this is really what a breakdown does. The arm is now where it should be. The body is about where it should be. This arm is still making its way out behind the head. And this face is finally starting to turn. And then finally, this hand reaches the point. This arm is already still there. And the head starts turning even more. And this is a very slow part of the motion. This is where it settles into the final pose. So we have a motion at boom. And it's okay if it all gets all wobbly and weird like that, because it's rough. Okay, and let's see if it plays. So right now it looks a little bit watery, a little bit slow. It's because we got to move stuff up. This is held for way too long. Still too slow. So I am at 24 frames. And it's too slow still. There we go. Bam. Bam. So notice how nothing is stopping all at the same time. This stops first, then the arms, and then the head, so that it feels much more natural instead of everything stopping all at the same time. And the speed was everything. How fast it went. Boom. Boom. And it could, I think it could even be faster than that. That's pretty fast. There we go. Wonder what happens if I get rid of one of these. Like this one. Just got rid of it. I actually like that better. It was slowing it down too much. So that's the technique that I would use in order to break down live action reference into animation. You look for the first part of the process. You're looking for the storytelling poses, anything that defines the action in the least amount of poses that you can, the roadmap of the action, the layout or the mapping of the action. Always use rough gestural drawings so that you're not, because as you saw, sometimes you just toss drawings out because they don't work. They're slowing down the action, whatever it takes. So if you're laboring over these drawings, you're doing a big disservice. Also, when you're flipping through it or you're checking the animation, you'll find things that aren't working and you'll have to make adjustments. So it's better to just be rough and gestural. So first the storytelling key poses, the roadmap poses, and then you go and start breaking down the action into its component parts. When does he go up? And then when the legs come down before the arms start moving, so you start defining those little bits. Try to find the places where one part of the body is doing something while the rest of it is left behind. Where is the action coming from? Is it coming from the hips? Is it coming from the head? Is it coming from the shoulders? Wherever the action is coming from, that's where you lead. In this case, the action was coming from the hips, so it was pulling everything together. So he was coming down, the hips were coming down, the foot was landing first, then the arms came down and started moving, and then once those really clearly make things look more natural. Always exaggerate what you're seeing more than what. Don't just copy what you see. Exaggerate it, feel it out, enhance the physics of the thing, and then that way it'll feel more natural. But always find how the action is breaking down into its minutia, so that you can see where the balance points are and what is following what. And define that in the breakdown part of the motion. Just be very, very careful about what you see. And then once the action is done and you're going to start doing a settling pose where and make sure you find the places where the anticipation happens, like the leg comes up before it goes forward. That was an antic pose. That was an anticipation pose. Animation is all about anticipation and overshoots, squash and stretch. Those are really huge, important animation principles. First, animation in overshoots are all about the anticipation is all about the going a little bit back before you go forward. The choreographing slightly of what you're going to do, so that the audience is able to recognize that, oh, this person is about to walk, this person is about to reach over, that person is about to hit something. And so find the antic poses, and then find the overshoot. The overshoots being the furthest out that something is, so that the line drawing that I have, that would be like the overshoot. It's not. I could have even pushed it even more, but in fact, I could show you what I could do with the overshoot here. Because if that's my overshoot, then what I want is this to really just go out, just over the top. And it is an overshoot because I did stretch out his arms. Remember, The original version of this didn't have his arm stretched out nearly as much. So I'm really really stretching out this bat. And maybe I could even grab this whole section of the arm minus the arc. We'll put the arc back. And really push that. See how far completely the bat just stretched out way off the screen? That's an overshoot. See, now it's just like really much more dynamic. It really, see, you don't even see it, but you feel it, that it just goes like right out, right? So that's an overshoot. And then when you settle into the final pose, everything should stop at different times. The arms are settling at different times as the head. So one arm is settling at a different speed as the other arm. So one comes to a stop while the other one is still doing, while the head, and then when this arm stops, the head's still moving, and then it stops. And then, so everything stops at different times. The legs, the arms, all these little limbs and things all stopping all at slightly different times. And that's another part of the breakdown process that you need to be aware of, that you should be anticipating and working on. As well as the squash and stretch. So the squash in this, I don't think there is any, except maybe the anticipation part is a little bit of a squash. But then, of course, the stretch is when he's like, and you can see that the bat is turned in that one pose. Boom. So those are my tips. Like, just look for places to find the overshoots, find the antics, find the squash, find the stretch, and storytelling poses, and break down the motion in a natural way. What comes first? Find the order of the motion, what parts of the bodies are moving at different points. And again, rough. Once you've got this down, then you can clean it up and spend all your time tightening it up and making all the things as tight as possible and pretty as possible, which is the most boring part of animation, believe me. So what I'm doing right now, what I did right now, that's the funnest part, like breaking it down and thinking about it, and then checking the timing and all that. That's the fun stuff. The boring stuff is actually drawing really nice and pretty once you're done, because you've got like a ton of drawings, especially because this isn't even in between. You still got if you look at this exposure sheet, there would need to be an in between here. There would need to be about an in between or two in between here, another drawing in between here, and between here and here there would be another drawing. So there's still a lot of more drawings to put in here to really make this look really nice. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope that answers your question. I hope that's clear. And thank you for asking the question. This was a lot of fun. I don't often get animation questions very often, and it's nice to be able to talk about it. So thanks a lot, and I will talk to you next time. All right, bye.